Hey guys, welcome to this webinar from Netdata on actionable network device monitoring. Um, I think let's wait for maybe 30 to 45 seconds before we get started to allow more participants to join in. Just bear with us for a few more seconds. Okay, I think it's time to get started. So I welcome you all again to this webinar that we are hosting today. We are extremely excited with the advancements that we've made, especially with network monitoring. And we thought it's a great opportunity for us to share everything that we've put together, but also what's in store in the very near future. I'm Satya, and I have with me Sham, both of us product guys here at Netdata, but we also don multiple hats. But for the sake of this webinar, I think both of us will consider ourselves just to be product managers here at Netdata. Without any further ado, I think Sham, I'll hand it over to you. Let's get going.
Thanks, Satya. So let's jump into this. So this is the agenda for today's webinar. We're going to be talking about network monitoring and data in general, the new concept that we have of device profiles for network devices, and how this helps us have coverage for all kinds of different devices from different vendors. We will go through some key metrics and also functions when it comes to network device monitoring. And we'll also talk about the role of machine learning, anomaly detection, and AI. And then we'll cover a few more things like synthetic checks, a troubleshooting workflow, and we'll be doing live demo walkthroughs as well. And then we can have Q&A. So just to start with, let's think about the problem statement for a little bit. So this is something that we've heard personally from a lot of our customers, who are coming from legacy monitoring solutions or in-house monitoring or other kinds of, in some cases, very little monitoring as well. There's hundreds, in some cases, thousands devices out there in their networks, routers, switches, firewalls, and a mix of servers, cloud, and the overall infrastructure is usually a mix and a hodgepodge. And collecting data from all of these different sources and visualizing it in a centralized fashion in a single dashboard is something that many teams struggle with. And even when you're able to visualize it in a single place, you still need to make sense of all of this data. Are you able to organize it properly? Are you able to use it for troubleshooting when you need it? Do you have proper alerting on it? Or are you getting fatigued by a flood of alerts? So all of these problems are very common across the industry. We hear about it every week practically. And the main crux of the matter is, what is it that you need to do to get to the root cause faster? At the end of the day, that's what you're looking for, not another dashboard, not another feature. It's about how can you reduce the time it takes from something is wrong to here's the root cause. So this is what we've been trying to do with a few of the different features that we'll be talking about today. And there's also a bunch of other features that will be coming soon, which we will just have a brief teaser about. So let's start with how Netdata solves network monitoring. So this is our current network monitoring at a glance. We cover thousands of different kinds of devices from different kinds of vendors. Almost any device that you would have in your network, whether it's a router, a firewall, a switch, a gateway, I'm pretty sure that Netdata already covers it. And in some case, if you have, let's say, a very custom device, or you're manufacturing your own devices, for example, it's very easy to add a new device profile, and we'll cover that bit as well. We support all three versions of SNMP, of course. And with Netdata's new network monitoring, you don't have to manually configure any OIDs or any MIBs and things like that. It's all automatic and out of the box. The default granularity for network devices when we monitor them via SNMP is 10 seconds. Now, you probably know, if you're familiar with Netdata, that we generally do per second. So every second data collection for as a standard. But then for SNMP devices, it's more of a limitation that's coming from the fact that these devices are um, being having their data collected through SNMP. They're remote devices, they're low power devices, not server grade devices, and that's why the 10-second granularity is there. But for most of the metrics that we'll be talking about here, this should be more than sufficient. So I'm not going to go through each point here, but we'll be covering it through the slides. Because once you start collecting metrics, and we collect hundreds of metrics from each of these devices and aggregating it and visualizing it in a data, then it gives you a lot of added benefits. Things like anomaly detection, alerting, and Netdata AI being able to kick in and understand what the metrics are, being able to correlate those network metrics with your application metrics, with your server level metrics and cloud metrics, and all of the other things. Being able to correlate all of that in a single place is invaluable. So let's start off with SNMP Auto Discovery. This is a new feature that's recently been added. And Satya, would you like to go through this, please?
Sure, absolutely. So when we started working on the network monitoring, we did a great job initially with creating all the SNMP profiles that Sham was talking about, and being able to, collect metrics and show them on the dashboard. One of the pains which we initially didn't think about, but very soon realized, which will be absolutely necessary, is the fact that you don't want to configure every single network device separately to be able to collect from them, but rather have some quick automation. So that could be, based on single IPs, so per device. It could also be based on IP ranges or subnets. It could also be based on CIDR blocks or whatever else. So with Netdata, if you point us either to a subnet or to a CIDR block or to certain IP ranges, we will automatically be able to discover all of these network devices through SNMP, pull all of the metrics in an automated fashion and put them on a dashboard. So for any of our users and customers, it should essentially be a couple of minutes to set this up and have full network monitoring right away on your dashboard. That's the chief, principle behind us, introducing this feature. So of course, you can have this configuration done on your agent through a configuration file, a service discovery configuration. But we also support this using the UI. So you just need to, on the Netdata dashboard, create a service discovery job,
Yeah,
and we will automatically.
maybe I can quickly share my screen to show how this works. Let me share my screen. So, so this is our demo, internal demo space. We have a bunch of nodes connected, including, you can see here, a bunch of network nodes. So before we jump into the service discovery, since I'm here, I think it might be good to just talk about some new features that have been added here. So the nodes tab has been around for some time, but now we have the ability to have different node groups. Some of these groups are automatic groups like network devices. If you have connected any network devices, we automatically have this tab here so that you can see them differently from your servers. And you can customize this in any way that you wish in terms of what metrics are actually showing up here. You can see that there's a bunch of different Cisco, Fortinet, Juniper, different kinds of devices that are showing up here. But you can also create your own custom groupings of nodes and assign nodes to specific groupings if you wish to. So for the service discovery bit, let's go to the configuration from the settings. And you can see that there's a service discovery tab here. So if I click on this, it shows me all the services that I can do service discovery for. And now we have SNMP that shows up here. So if I create a new job here, a service discovery job, I give it a name, and then these are the default values that are there. What the main information that you would need to configure here are the credentials for each network. So if you have multiple networks, you can create multiple credentials here, and then you can just set up the networks. And like Satya mentioned, it can be an IP range, it can be a subnet, and you just map it to the specific credential that should be used for that subnet. So it is pretty straightforward, and it saves a whole lot of time if you have hundreds or thousands of network devices. You can also do it from your own configuration tool by editing the conf file and pushing it wherever it needs to be pushed. So both options are on the table. And service discovery is disabled by default, so you need to opt in. We do this for security purposes. Also, we don't want to, let's say, automatically try to connect to and collect metrics from devices that you don't want Netdata to be monitoring. So it's something that you would need to configure for those reasons.
Yeah, Sham, before we proceed, I think your video is hung. So in
Oh,
case you want to turn off your video and turn it on before proceeding, yeah,
sure. Let me
much better
check.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, we can proceed.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about these device profiles that we briefly mentioned that allows us to monitor these thousands of different devices. So we have coverage for all of the common vendors, so your Cisco's, your Junipers, your Arista, Ubiquiti, Microtech, all of the common vendors that you can think of, and different device categories and device types and device models within this. So, in case of Cisco, different kinds of switches and Catalyst and Nexus and all these different models and device types. Similarly, for firewalls, we have support for all these different kinds of firewalls, and there's a whole lot of other devices as well. We will give a link where you can access this presentation afterwards. So you'll be able to just go on GitHub by clicking on this link and see all of the different devices that we support. So we currently support every network device that Datadog supports as well. So Datadog has an open source repository which we have used for collecting information that is required for the device profiles. But we're also adding more devices based on customer requests, based on any information that we see. So our goal is to make this really the most comprehensive uh, SNMP device profile database out there. And what do we mean by a device profile, right? So a device profile is basically, it's a YAML file, and what it allows Netdata to do is uh, Netdata, when it discovers an SNMP device, it using the profile, it's able to tell which vendor it belongs to, who the manufacturer is, what kind of device it is, what model number it is. And once it does that mapping, then it knows what are the kind of OIDs that I need to be looking for, what metrics do I need to query for. All of that happens automatically, so you don't need to worry about it. So there's different base profiles that are used across different device profile files. All of this is available, visible in the open source repository, so you can go take a look if you'd like to. You can also create your own custom device profiles. We've documented this in the documents, in the documentation. There's a link to the documentation that we'll share. So if you'd like to, it's again reasonably straightforward. You can create an Netdata device profile for your own device if it's not already there, or you can reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you add that as well. So let's briefly touch upon some of the key metrics. Of course, there's a very wide variety of different kinds of metrics that are collected from these wide variety of different types of devices. But some of these, of course, there will be commonalities here. There are standard metrics that are collected across all the devices, like traffic-related metrics, errors, discards, interface-related metrics. And in addition to all the standard networking-related metrics, Netdata also collects a lot of hardware-related metrics, from the devices, even things like fan and power supply status and information like that. So this is the kind of information that many tools skip, and having all of this available together allows you to have a much better grasp on what's going on in an infrastructure, if any devices need to be replaced, or if you have issues in certain parts or certain locations. You're able to get a much more, let's say, wider view. And there's also vendor specific metrics, like I was mentioning earlier. So if you have specific vendors and those vendors expose, let's say, custom metrics that are specific to them, again, you don't need to do any extra configuration. The device profiles contain this information, so we automatically map the vendor and look for this extra information and visualize it in the dashboard. Similarly for device types as well. So if it's a firewall and it has specific information, if it's a VPN gateway, if it's a switch or a router, if it has something different, we automatically discover this and visualize it. So before we go to functions, I think it would be good to jump into the dashboard again for a bit, just to show you how this looks like. So let me go back and share my screen. So coming back here, we were in the Nodes tab earlier. So if you want to visualize the metrics from any specific device, one really easy way is just clicking on the device from this list. So if I want to see the dashboard for the Cisco 7200, I would just click on it. And now I'm seeing only the metrics that are coming in from this specific Cisco switch, right? Or router, whatever the 7200 is. And you can see there's a lot of metrics by looking at the table of contents, right? So we have hardware level metrics, power supply, sensor, temperature information. And then, of course, we have a whole bunch of networking related information across each interface. So here you can see that each specific interface of this device shows up separately here. By default, Netdata charts are aggregated, but if you want to see the full view across all of the instances, you can always do split it so that you're seeing all of the different interfaces and different as different components in this chart. And you can see we have routing information, BGP, OSPF information, TCP, UDP stuff, system level metrics about the device, such as the CPU, the memory, and there's also a ping job that's running as part of this that is doing a ping round trip time test to the specific device. So you don't have to configure this separately. It's part of the configuration within the SNMP job. So once you set it up that way, you get this without having to create yet another separate collector to do this. So here's all of the metrics that we're collecting from this one device. That was specific to that device that we went into. You would see similar views for any of these devices, but those are individual views that you would be looking at if you already wanted to look at that device, or if you knew that there was a specific problem there, or there was an alert that triggered from that device, then you would be doing that. Otherwise, you would be going to the metrics explorer. So this, of course, is the main place where you spend your time in Netdata. You have all your charts, you have all your metrics and everything here. And of course, we have an SNMP section here. And here, you're seeing the aggregate visualization for all your network devices, right? All dozens of devices that are there in the space. You can see here in this table, it shows all of the vendors and all of the specific names of these devices. And it shows some summary level information on the traffic and the packets and the errors. And also the information about this is also an aggregate across all of these different devices. Now, the values themselves during this demo might not make a lot of sense because all of these are basically a sandbox environment. They're not seeing real traffic. It's just simulated traffic right now. But in your real systems, you would see, realistic data points. So here you can see that we see some of those metrics that we saw for the Cisco device, but there's also other metrics that show up here, like outlet and face bank. And there's more power-related metrics because it's coming from a different device. So different devices, we have firewalls here, We have, Juniper, Brocade, IBM. All these different devices are contributing different metrics that are getting aggregated here. So you might even see things related to, for example, VPN here. So there's global protect, there's gateway level information, there's tunnel related information here. There's wireless information from access points, including radio channel utilization. Do you have interference on specific receiver channels, transmission channels? You get all of the information that you would possibly ever need when it comes to these devices. And it's all, if you're looking for something specific, you can also use the search button here and just search for something specific, and you would be able to kind of get to that specific thing. Oops. So you can see that the security related metrics are probably coming in from the firewalls that are contributing these metrics. And yeah, it's a huge list because we have very different kinds of devices in this particular space. But this is the way that you would be able to see an aggregate view of all of these different devices coming in. But from a best practices point of view, depending on what you as a network admin would like to do, you might want to create sub rooms so that you can have a separate room for all your firewalls, another one for all your switches, another one for your routers, so that it makes more sense administering them and visualizing the data that way. Or it could be based on the site or the location. So if you have multiple data centers, maybe you have one room per data center, and within that room you have a node group that just shows you all of the network devices within that particular location or site. So there's different ways that you can do this. Let me jump back to the presentation again. So that was all about the...
Before we proceed, Sham, for anyone who's listening in, guys, if you have your questions, because we are covering a bunch of topics, feel free to put them on the chat, and we will answer them as and when we proceed. You don't need to wait for the very end. So just feel free to ask any questions that may be relevant at the time. Proceed, Sham.
Yeah, that's a good point, Satya. So we covered metrics, and now we're looking at functions. So if you're not familiar with what Netdata functions are, they're basically real-time interactive data streams that come from your devices into the Netdata dashboard. So it could be the output of a specific command. It could be the output of a custom script, for example, that's collecting real-time data and just streaming it into Netdata's dashboard only when you're viewing the function. When you navigate away, when you close the tab, when you close the dashboard, there's no data transfer happening at all. It's not even being collected. But when you enable the function, then it's collecting it in real time and visualizing it. So we can also have functions that are related to network devices. For example, we have the new SNMP interfaces function, which can stream live interface data. So I can just quickly show this here. If I go to the top here, so this is from the node to where the SNMP devices are connected. You can see that we can see the different interfaces here, the interface names, what kind of interfaces they are, how much traffic is flowing in, out, packets in, out. And you can, of course, customize this information. So if you wanted to see the type, now you can see that this is Ethernet, CSMA, CD, right? So this is just an example. We can add more functions. If you have specific requirements about what you would like to stream from these devices, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to add more functions. You can see that we've started adding a lot more functions now. So this is similar to your table of contents. You have database specific functions, you have system level functions. And the idea is that all of these things are, how do you collect specific information that you need during your troubleshooting flow without having to SSH into devices and run manual commands and collect information, which is a slow process. It can also be a a less secure process, because you might have to share your SSH credentials with people outside the team sometimes when you're not there or when you don't have access. You don't need to do any of that. If you already have Netdata monitoring these systems, then you can just use Netdata functions, or you can tell whoever is using the system that just go here, just look at this. Um, so it's an easy way to handle these sort of scenarios. And I think we're just getting started with Netdata functions. So this is almost like a teaser, really. So we are hoping that we'll hear about more use cases from you, from the community at large, and then we can add a lot more functions and make this a lot more useful.
Thanks, Sham. I think we have some questions coming in. Let me put
Sure.
them up on the screen. Some great questions in there. So the first question is it possible to set up alerts on those SNMP metrics?
Yeah, I think you're the
Go
best guy
ahead.
to take this, man.
Okay. So irrespective of where the
I don't know what happened. That Satya dropped, but I can take this question, assuming everybody can still see me. So it doesn't matter where the metrics are coming from, whether they're from a physical node where you have a Netdata agent running, or if it's a virtual node that we're
oops,
you can edit alerts.
I think something went wrong, but we're back again. Yeah. So if you can, Sham, just show dashboard if it's possible.
Sure, sure. I'm just going to the dashboard.
Yes.
Can you
So
see it? Yeah.
yes, I can see it now. So if you go to any of the metric, click on the bell icon on top of the metric. It allows you to create a chart. So all the components, including anomaly detection, setting up alerts, anything and everything associated with a data metric is also available for all the network metrics. I hope that answers your question in there. That's a great question. We didn't cover it, but that's great. We
Yeah.
also
So
have another
ba- yeah,
question, or go ahead.
basically, basically these any metrics that we're collecting from these devices, they're first-class citizens in Netdata. So, like Satya mentioned, you get all of the bells and whistles, right? You get anomaly detection, you get alerting, you get all the benefits of Netdata AI. Everything comes in.
Great. We also have another question, which is a little bit more involved, but Sham, I'll allow you to take this. Is there any way to see the traffic of the complete LAN, example from all the switches seen by Netdata from the last 2 to 3 months, and calculate a base value so that a spike would send an alert? Sham, I think this is a great segue into some of the AI reporting bits, but I'll let you take this.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I'll answer this as part of the continuation of the next slide, because it's kind of related to this. This is partly where the anomaly detection comes in. So the way that Netdata does anomaly detection, it's not an optional thing, or it's not a opt-in thing for Netdata. Anomaly detection is running by default. You can turn it off if you want to, right? So what this does is, for every metric that we collect, including all of these network related metrics, which include information around the traffic, the interface rates, the discards, the errors, all of that information, what Netdata does is it basically trains in an unsupervised fashion these groups of tiny models that form this baseline of what is normal. So this base value that you're talking about in this question, this is something that it's derived in an unsupervised fashion. So nobody needs to set it saying that this is the base value. It's automatically learned from the system. So it might be different for different parts of your system. It might be different for different devices, what the normal is. But this is something that Netdata learns automatically. And when we ingest new metrics, what we do is we check against the baseline, against this baseline that we've created. And if the value falls outside of the baseline, then it's marked as an anomaly. And if it doesn't, then it's not an anomaly. So it's almost a Boolean anomaly or not anomaly for every single collected piece of data. And then what we do when we roll it up into a chart and look at it over a larger period of time is all of these anomaly bits, which are either 0 or 1, become an anomaly rate. So you get an idea of how anomalous something is by what amount of time was this particular metric behaving anomalously, if that makes sense. So there are some standard defaults built into the anomaly detection in terms of how many days of data does it take to train the models, how often do we replace the models. These are all configurable. So if you have a specific time period in mind, like you mentioned 2 to 3 months, or it could be 2 to 3 weeks, or it could be something else, you can actually configure this in the Netdata agent settings, so that that's how long we would keep the training period. We would have models that would cover that specific duration of time, and that would form the baseline. So this is how you would uh, configure the anomaly detection, and then you can have alerts that trigger based on those anomalies. So you can say that I want an alert for this specific metric, and trigger it when it behaves anomalously. You don't need to give a specific value threshold. You can just say that this has to be anomalous for me to be notified.
And just to add to what Sham has been mentioning, so we of course have our entire agentic AI right now, which can give you exactly what you're looking for. So you can analyze the data for the last few months, arrive at some mean, median, whatever values, uh, and generate reports, right? And check regularly, maybe with a scheduled report to see if things are moving in a different direction. But also, while creating alerts, we right now have an uh, alert creation engine which helps you, which suggests what your threshold should be based on data exactly similar to what you're asking. So it does take a look at how your data has been progressing over the last few weeks, months, and suggests relevant thresholds. But you can also see them on charts neatly on the screen to see what would be or where in the chart the alerts would trigger in case you set a certain threshold. So it's already kind of
Yeah.
embedded into the dashboard and how we create alerts right now.
Yeah. So we have this, we call it the AI co-SRE. So it's basically an agentic workflow built into the Netdata app that helps you automate certain troubleshooting tasks or reporting tasks. And I know a lot of you are skeptical about AI. So I'd like to say that at Netdata, we take a very pragmatic approach to AI. So it's not like we're just dumping a bunch of data and then telling the AI to figure out what's going on. The approach that we're taking is more about how can we provide the AI with the right set of tools that it will be able to do a good job with this. So anomaly detection being one thing, where we don't want to leave it up to the let's say the generative AI layer to figure out if there was anomalies or not. We're doing this using machine learning, using statistical modeling, so that if anything like these examples here, like a BGP peer state flapping happens, for example, it will create anomalies if this is something that's not been seen in the system. And Netdata AI will then be able to just look for anomalies and then identify these particular situations. So we're trying to provide tools like anomaly detection, tools like metric correlation, tools like forecasting to the AI layer, so that it's able to access the data, access the tools, access the context, and come up with something that's really groundbreaking. So
I think
that
given that you are on the anomaly detection topic, Sham, we have another question,
sure.
very relevant. I think you should take this.
Yeah, so the training cycles, where are the training cycles? So the anomaly detection itself happens on device, distributed fashion, and it's very lightweight. These models are tiny, extremely tiny. because we can run hundreds, thousands of these models on a single VM, and you would barely notice the bump on the CPU, um, because they're very, how do I put this? They're very purpose specific, right? They have only one purpose, and that is to say whether this particular data point in one single time series is this behaving within bounds or not. So the training process is basically figuring out what those bounds are, and we use a clustered k-means algorithm to do this. So it automatically creates a cluster, and over time, it knows that this is the boundary. And anything that falls outside of that boundary is an anomaly. Anything that falls inside of the boundary is not an anomaly. And the boundary itself keeps changing over time as we keep training the models. So the model training is something that happens all the time. It doesn't require GPUs. It's all written in C, and it consumes very less CPU itself. There's no extra charge.
Great. Thanks, Sham. I think we can proceed to the next topic.
Yeah, so that leads me into the AI assisted troubleshooting that I was talking about. So at a high level, you can think about it this way. We have real time data available within Netdata. We have the tools such as the anomaly detection, such as metrics correlation, um, just the automated dashboards, the programmatic dashboards, the alerting, all of this information available. And we have, as you just saw during the demo, we have huge number of metrics being collected. And in some cases, you might have huge number of nodes being monitored as well. So we're talking about millions of metrics being collected here. So how do you make sense of all of this data? This is something that we've been thinking about a lot, have had a lot of discussions with customers about, because time is a limited resource for every team out there, and they have a lot to do. And having all of these metrics available at very small granularities is great, but it can also be overwhelming. So this is why we've been working on the AI co-SRE, so that you can offload a lot of the data processing activities to it specifically. So, and then you can start from some point which is not zero, right? You can start from 50%, you can start from 70% of the job done, because the data collection has already happened. Some level of reasoning on the collected data has already happened. So for example, if you ask a question like this, which is, why is the core switch showing increased errors on this particular interface? What happens is Netdata AI knows which interface you're talking about, which node it is on. It can query for the data points. It looks at the anomaly scores. It runs metrics correlations to see what could have happened here, so that we have increased errors. And it's able to give you an actionable answer. Right? So it's able to say that here's what I see, here's the related anomalies, here's the correlated metrics, and here's my best guess on what could have happened here. So this saves a lot of time, specifically, even if it's, for example, an alert being triggered. Um, One big issue with alert fatigue is false positive alerts. So maybe the alert was misconfigured. Maybe you created an alert and the configuration needed to be changed at some point when there were changes in the network, but nobody did it. In these cases, when an alert triggers, uh, it becomes noise, because somebody looks at it and say, this alert was not helpful at all. I didn't really need to look at it. So next time an alert triggers, it's like it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? You get desensitized to these alerts triggering. So what we're also trying to do is, how can we improve here? So by suggesting better alerts, by helping you identify misconfigured alerts, and also just by troubleshooting the alerts for you. So when an alert triggers, now you have a troubleshoot button that you can just click, and Netdata would go look at it and figure out, is this a real problem that you need to wake up for, or is it just misconfigured alert that you can fix next week? So this is functionality that we already have. A lot of users have been using this, and if you haven't tried it out yet, I would recommend trying it out. So I think we covered a lot of points. I just want to briefly touch on synthetic checks here as well. So many of you might already know this. We have different mechanisms of running synthetic checks, like the ping collector. You can do TCP UDP port checks. across your network, right? Whether it's a server node, whether it's a network device node, you can do these things. And for SNMP jobs, like I showed during the demo, there is a ping enabled true that's part of the SNMP job config, which means that you don't need to create a separate new ping job. We're already doing the ping tests on those virtual nodes. So stepping back again a little bit, if we look at the troubleshooting workflow, it could look something like this, right? So you've configured an alert, which is possibly based on anomalies, and maybe not. It could just be that if there's X amount of discards or drops on this interface, I need to be alerted. And then the anomaly detection that comes with Netdata already has information around when this alert was triggering, what were the anomalous metrics, right? Was this something that just happens all the time, so the alert condition was hit but it was not an anomaly because it's always like that? Or is it just something that's abnormal, hasn't been seen in that system for the last 2 months, for example? We also have the scoring mechanism, which helps us correlate these metrics. So, yes, interface errors are above the baseline, but what other things correlate to that? So maybe there's specific things that are happening on a specific port, or maybe hardware level metrics, maybe application level metrics that correlate with the specific issue that you're seeing here. And that's where the AI co-SRE comes in, to be able to go look at all of this data, run all those tools, and try its best to explain the issue. So it's able to do all these things automatically, so that you don't have to manually do them. You can do them manually, of course, if you want to, but the AI co-SRE will do it automatically, and it will try its best to explain the issue, and it will also suggest remediation steps. So it will suggest how to fix this issue. Now, this is not going to be 100%, let's say, accurate fix at all times. But the benefit of this is that a lot of the dead ends that you might otherwise have to manually discover will automatically be handled here, and you'll get a report of it. So the AI would look at that chart, look at this chart, look at this relation between the two, this dependency. These might be things that your team would have to do manually otherwise. And if for nothing, just to rule it out that this isn't the problem. So these things are all automatically handled. So it saves a lot of time, many hours, in some cases, days of time. And once a fix is suggested, it's up to the user to apply the fix. And after all of this is done and the issue is resolved, if you want to generate an incident report, you can again ask Netdata AI to do this, and it will happily create a very detailed incident report of the timeline that was involved, everything that happened and how it was resolved, all of that information. So what we're really aiming for is how can we speed up the incident resolution um, as much as possible, without increasing the burden on the users, the burden in terms of configuration, the burden in terms of maintenance, or the burden in terms of learning, new query languages or new alerting systems and all of these things. How do we cut out the burden so that you can focus more on your business critical activities and less on becoming an observability expert? You can just be an expert of your infrastructure. So that's our goal here.
Thanks, Sham. I think we have another question relevant to the troubleshooting workflow that you were talking about.
Yeah, so is there a report of agentic confidence? Yes. So the reports themselves will be listed in order of confidence. Um, so it will always say that here are the likely root causes that I've identified, starting from the most likely to the least likely. So you'll see a whole bunch of potential suggestions. We are on the side of presenting more options to the user, so that we don't miss out on what might actually be a problem. So you might see more potential root causes than you would expect in some cases. Like, here's 6 potential root causes for this thing, but it's always ordered in terms of the actual confidence. And for the blast radius, again, this is something it's an evolving part of Netdata. So there's different ways to do this. We have, for example, with the anomaly detection and the correlation, the ability to kind of get a slider view that you can slide around just to see. I can increase the radius to see, more things that might be related to this, or I can reduce the slider so that I see only the things that are really, really related to it, not everything else. So I can get that view, and Netdata AI can see that view as well. So it's able to use it and prepare this report. I think we already did the live walkthrough while we were doing the sessions. So I think we can briefly talk about what's coming next here. So these features are in active development. So some of them should be dropping pretty soon. Um, Here's, I'd just like to spend some time talking just about these three features. They're also very commonly requested features from customers and from users and from the community. So the first one is SNMP trap support. So today we can already ingest SNMP traps and visualize them in our logs functionality. This is something that you can already do. You just need to set up an SNMP trap receiver that's ingesting it as a log. But what we're trying to do here is trying to make this more out of the box so that you don't have to do extra configuration, and also giving you the ability to then alert on these SNMP traps, for example. So this is something that doesn't exist today. This is something that we're working on and hopefully should be available soon. Similarly, the NetFlow, SFlow, IPFix, basically traffic flow monitoring. Again, this is something that you can do today, but we use a third-party collector to basically collect the flow records and convert them into metrics, and then they just show up as metrics in the dashboard. So you still need a third-party collector to do that. So what we want to do here is we want to be able to natively do this and also offer you a proper flow monitoring dashboard, so that it's not just, hey, here's the things converted into metrics, but what other information that you would need to see in terms of monitoring your traffic flows, you should be able to see all of that. So this is also something that's in progress, and yeah, hopefully we should be able to. I think we're going to be planning a part two of this session where, once these features are available so that we can show them to you, we will definitely do a part two. And then finally, I think probably the most important one of the lot is the network topology map. This is something that everybody's been asking for quite some time. I think it's getting close to implementation ready right now. And the idea is that we're going to have topology visualization for your entire network across different layers, so that you can actually see what parts of your network have what sort of issues. You can see which part of your network, what is the, correlate all of the metrics that we're already collecting, but see it across your network. So you say that this part of my network has a problem that's causing this other problem on the upstream. So these are the features that are in active implementation that you should be hearing about, seeing about pretty soon.
Thanks,
And of
Sham. I
course,
think
yeah, and of course, we would like to hear your feedback. So you can drop any message right now or just send it to us afterwards. If there's other features related to network monitoring that you use in other tools, or something that you haven't seen in any other tool but you would really like, please send it to us. We'd be more than happy to take a look.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sham. I think you've covered most of the stuff. The one thing which, if I may request, we spoke about the alert creation using AI, also the report generation. If in a couple of minutes you can quickly show how that flow looks, because I think we answered it, but we didn't show it. It may be
Sure.
useful, yeah, given that we have a few minutes until the next questions come in. Maybe you can quickly show how those
Sure.
flows look.
So I hope my screen is visible. So here's a chart. It's CPU utilization per core. So I can click on this bell icon here, click on add alert. And here, I can just type in what kind of alert I want, right? I can just type in here. Or if I'm not sure and I want to Netdata to suggest, I can click on the suggest button, and it will suggest what a reasonable alert here would be, right? So it's a suggested something here. Now I can just edit this if I want to. So I can make this 95% instead of 90%, for example. And then I can click on generate configuration. And what would happen is we're going to generate alert configuration for this request here. So you don't need to know the details of Netdata's alert template language. You don't need to be an expert in this. We will create it for you. And then we also have alert evaluation, which is a pretty new feature. So what this does is you can say that for this alert that we're trying to create here, if we look at the last 2 days on a specific node, um, this node doesn't have data, but the idea is that it would basically show you how often this alert would have been active, right? How often would it have triggered? And let me see if there's another node where we can get this parent. It doesn't have metrics apparently, but it would just show you visually on a chart uh, how often this alert would have triggered, how often it would have been in critical. So it gives you the history of this hypothetical alert. So you can know before you submit this alert that it's something that would always be on or would be flapping all the time. And depending on that, you can edit the alert. You can just go into edit mode, you can change this and then try again so that you get an alert that you know will work before you submit it. So that's how you create alerts. And then inside Netdata AI here, we have different kinds of reports. So you can have anomaly analysis, capacity planning, infrastructure summary, performance optimization. You can also have alert investigation. So for example, here, there's a bunch of investigations that have been done for alerts. So this was for a critical alert that was triggered for the DB2 buffer pool hit ratio on this IBM collector demo node. And you can see that it's done a timeline, it's done a root cause analysis, impact assessment. So in the root cause analysis here, you can see that here's the primary finding that there was just a monitoring system anomaly, right? So this alert represents a data collection failure rather than a genuine DB2 buffer pool performance degradation. So if you get this information in this report, you also get this by email, then you know that this is actually not a business impacting issue. It's more of a monitoring configuration issue that you can fix later. It's not, let's say, a critical issue burning right now. And for this, it's also identified here as the different evidences that point to this, so that it's not just, here's our recommendation and you have to believe it. Here's all of the information, and then based on that, you can make the cut. And there's also primary root cause and alternate hypotheses. There's a technical explanation for this. And then finally, you have recommendations here as well. So here is the confidence level that I was mentioning earlier. So it's saying that we are 95% confident that the monitoring system failure is the issue here, and this is not genuine database performance issue. In some other cases, you might see that the AI is not as confident, so it might have more options, and it might say that I'm 60% confident it's this, I'm 50% confident it's that. It depends on the specific issue and what kind of information is available. So these were specifically alert investigations, but you can also have your own custom investigations about anything really. So you can say compare system metrics before and after a recent deployment, and you can give it information about, we did a deployment for this service, it was deployed at this time. Here are the main changes that we did. Here are the specific concerns that I have. And you can also specify time window, and Netdata would just go figure out what all it needs to look at, what all it needs to collect, and then give you a very detailed report about this. So again, the idea is always to save you time, to basically try and do most of the things that are manual effort for you, and not the interesting bits, but just stuff that you have to do as part of your job. And if we can kind of shrink the time horizon on that and speed you up, then that's great for everybody. So, if you haven't tried out any of these features yet, please try them out. If you don't have the AI credits required to try them out but would like to, uh, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to help out so that you get a chance exploring these new functionalities. And before I forget, you can also have just simple conversations with Netdata AI and just ask it, here, for example, anything weird going on. So it would just give you, let's say, more shorter, more concise answers without doing a very deep dive exploratory analysis like these reports would do. But sometimes you just need a quick answer about something that you were looking at, right? So you can see that I just asked a simple question, and it's able to give you a high level answer, right? So there's a bunch of alerts here. These are the biggest hotspots. Several nodes report issues. This is a demo node with a lot of craziness going on, demo space. So I wouldn't pay too much heed to the actual answer here, but you get the idea of what this would do. And it only uses a small fraction of a credit for actually answering this question, as you can see here. And as I type more here, you would see how much credits you're actually used. So
Great.
yeah, so that was Netdata AI. I would really recommend giving it a spin and sharing your feedback, positive or negative. We'd be happy to hear it.
Yeah, I think there's one last question around the AI piece, Sham, and I think you'll be happy to see this. Let me put that on the screen.
Yeah, so I'm sure I'm sure happy to hear this. And yes, there is an MCP layer. So every Netdata agent is already an MCP server of its own. So if you can connect your own AI agents, it connects to a specific Netdata agent. But the feature that we're working on right now, which should hopefully release in a few days, is the Netdata cloud itself being an MCP server. So this means that you'll be able to connect to Netdata cloud for your space and have access to all of the information, including the tools that we're talking about. The tools that, such as anomaly detection, metrics correlation, forecasting, and all these other tools that we're building, log analysis. So that's where the real power is going to come from. We're very excited about this ourselves, and our longer term idea here is that Netdata Cloud would both be an MCP server, so that you can connect your AI agents to it, and it would also be an MCP client, so that other MCP servers would be able to connect to it. So, for example, if you have a GitHub or a Jenkins MCP server or a PagerDuty MCP server, all of these systems that you operate should be able to communicate with each other. So, when we're doing investigation into a specific issue and you have context about the previous such issue that happened in your Slack channel or in your GitHub or on your PagerDuty, you should be able to set it up so that the investigation is using all of this context automatically, so that you don't have to manually dump this every time. So this is where we want to go towards, and hopefully it's something that you'll all be able to see pretty soon. So yes, we definitely need more people to try out this functionality and give feedback so we can make it better.
Great. Sean, there's one last question, and I think then we should just summarize and wind up. It's about Netdata Cloud on-prem.
Yeah, so this is a very good question. So currently, the options, if you're running Netdata Cloud on-prem, for having access to, so all of the other stuff, the network monitoring, the machine learning, the anomaly detection, all of that would work as is because it runs on the agent. The Netdata AI layer, for now, it requires access to LLM APIs, which means that one option you have is if you have your own, if you have your own AWS private cloud, or if you're running workloads on AWS, then we can help you set it up so that you can use your own LLM that's hosted on AWS to be able to do what Netdata AI is doing. But where we want to go with this, and we're doing testing regarding this right now, is um, there's been some crazy development in open source AI models recently. So we believe that open source AI is around 5 to 6 months behind the cutting edge latest models that are out there. So we're hoping that pretty soon we should be able to have local models that we can recommend, possibly fine-tuned models that we can provide you with, that and a set of recommendations of this is the kind of system that you would need and you would be able to host it yourself. So you can host your own AI SRE agent in that case. And that's where we're building towards, trying to see if we can transition from the the big AI labs and their gated models to open source models that do as close to what the AI labs are offering.
Great. Thanks, Sham. I think we're at the top of the hour. We're thankful to everyone who stayed on. We didn't expect this to take the entire hour, but it did because we have a lot to share and also some really insightful questions that allowed us to provide more information. If you have any further questions, anything that you guys need to know, feel free to reach out to us. It could be anyhow. It could be email. It could just be on any of our community channels. But also just support requests. We are happy to hear first the feedback, but also we're more than happy to answer any questions or concerns that you may have. We are trying our best to have a full stack observability in place, and we're getting closer and closer. And we are happy to share this with all of you. And hopefully, the next session we'll have, we will show network topology maps. We will show around the network flows and SNMP traps, but also more and more capabilities that we would have added on the AI layer. So thank you very much, guys. Have a
Thank you
great
so
day.
much.
And
Have a
thank
good
you.
day, guys. Bye.